All right, we are back. Ooh, am I peaking there?
Maybe a little bit.
Am I peaking, or does that sound good?
It sounded good in my ears.
Okay. Well, don't I always sound good in your ears?
Only when you whisper.
What about moaning?
No, I like when you go, yeah. That sounds a lot better.
All right, we're back with the Hang and Hunt podcast, and we got our buddy Dean Elliot here. And Dean is the master of patents, as well as like just super cool, innovative stuff. So I'm really excited to kind of dig in to all this. Dean brought some goodies here and just kind of chat through not only like patents, what to do when you have a good idea, how to protect your good idea, how to protect your own IP, and then also kind of talk through some of this cool stuff that he's got here, and just kind of roll with it. So you met Dean in a very interesting way. It was a truck stop bathroom, wasn't it? Same way we met.
No, it was a rest stop. I mean, it was open to the public, not just truckers.
We don't want to discriminate against people here.
I mean, I like them all. Well, I think it was my second or third year going to the ATA show, and on the plane, I sit down and this guy's next to me and we just start talking and he's like, yeah, I'm going to the ATA show. And I looked at him like, yeah, me too. Are you with a company? What are you doing? And he said, well, I've got some ideas. Told me his background as a patent lawyer and had his own patent searching company, right, Dean?
Right. Not a lawyer.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies.
That's all right.
You could have just taken it.
Well,
just take it and run with it. And say, yeah, and a doctor too.
Right.
So I'm talking to Dean, and he's telling me about these inventions and these ideas that he has, and he's like, I'm just going out to the ATA show to basically try to sell my ideas. I'm like, dude, this guy's got some cojones to be able to go. I know no one in the industry, and I'm going out and trying to start a business. So. I think I kind of told you, hey, start with at least these couple companies, and then by the end of it, you were like, yeah, I'm one step closer, and we're starting a business. So, I thought that was amazing, and Taylor and I have had people, message us and contact us and say, basically, hey, we've got an idea, we've got an invention, we've got something, but we don't know how to get it into the market. Can you talk to somebody and see if we can get it into the market?
And we're like, why are you messaging us?
Why are you talking to us?
We don't even know how to hunt. We're just talking faces.
You should see me gut a deer. I'm like,
yeah. I don't actually shoot deer.
Pictures.
Yeah.
So Dean, I kind of want to start off before we get into kind of your journey. Mm-hmm. I want to start off by asking, what would you tell someone who has this idea or has, whether it's an invention or some type of idea, what advice, the first thing you would tell them?
I think the first thing I would say is take some initial steps to protect it, right? And so within the patent system, there's this thing called a provisional patent application. You hear it a lot on Shark Tank. And basically what it means is I'm going to make a description of my invention, and I'm going to mail it to the patent office. And they're going to date stamp it, and as of that day, I'm considered the inventor of that product. It's not a formal patent application. It's not a patent at all. It's just sort of a rough draft. I'm on file. I got a date stamp from the patent office, and now I have 1 year as an inventor to file the formal application, or I may lose the rights to the invention.
Now, would you do this before you start talking to a bunch of people?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I hear people saying, oh, I've got this idea, and they're telling everyone they know.
Big mistake.
Have you filed a provisional patent on your idea? Does Dean know about your great idea?
No, but I'm going to bring that up.
Okay.
Sure. All right, I've got a great example. Let's just say I think this is going to work really well.
This is a $1 billion idea.
Yeah, it's a maybe trillion.
I wouldn't tell anybody before I filed it.
All right, well, we'll
Even me.
we'll put this out after I file it. It's the AeroNet. So my idea is
boom. I wish we had a little soundboard. I was on the Vortex podcast recently.
Yeah.
Sorry to just completely cut you off, but
I don't care.
They had I don't even listen when you talk. I just wait for my turn. Sometimes this time I didn't even wait for my turn. They have a little soundboard where you can add in little like or whatever.
Or
yeah. So we're gonna get one.
Okay.
I already ordered it. It's back ordered, and we're gonna add
back ordered.
shocker. Thanks a lot, COVID. Thanks for nothing, COVID. But we're going to have about 15 patents. So 15 little buttons I can push there. So I would have pushed the so just so you know.
The arrow net. So you shoot the arrow at the deer and the net comes out, captures the deer. Then you can go down and measure it to see if it's big enough to actually kill before you actually kill. And if it's too small, just let it go, you know?
And
wait
if it's
until
big,
next year.
just stick it.
So don't tell anybody about that. But
Okay.
let's say I've got the arrow net and I don't want to tell anybody, but I want to go and set up you called it a provisional patent application.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, you basically there are different ways you can do it. You can scan it, upload it through the patent office website, or you can actually do it old school and put it on a piece of paper, mail it in. They'll mail you back a receipt. So as of whatever date they stamp when they receive it, then you are considered the inventor of that particular invention. Doesn't mean that it's novel, doesn't mean that you'll get a patent. It just means I'm on file as being the inventor. So years and years ago, the patent office had a system where you could basically, inventors could go back to notebooks from the 1980s, let's say, and see something that they could establish that they had actually taken a note on. Engineers did it all the time. Corporations did it. And so if you could get back to that date, even though you may have filed the application 10 years later, the patent office would consider you the inventor of that innovation. They changed back in the early, I believe, I think it was 2013, but don't quote me on that, to a first-to-file system. So the first person that gets that application on file as of a particular date is considered the inventor. So that's why it becomes important to get that provisional patent application on file, get a date, and then now you have a year to approach investors to have a patent search done, excuse me, which is something I really recommend, and to start down the process.
So then, during that year, let's just hypothetically say you have the money to do a patent search.
Right.
You do a patent search, there's no patents out there on your invention.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Then you're filing for a patent.
Right. So the cost of a patent search through a professional provider can vary from $550 to, say, $800 on a non-complex mechanical device. So when you think, though, if you skip that step and you go straight to the patent attorney, and some people do this, they insist that the attorney file it without a search, that attorney's fees are probably going to be somewhere from $5,000 to $8,000. So it doesn't make sense to skip the patent search process. And so for, say, around $1,500, an inventor can have the search done and have an official opinion done by an attorney who will actually sit and review the results and say, I believe this is patentable or not. Mm-hmm. And so I think those are important steps.
How does that work with patent infringing stuff, or making sure that what you're doing isn't infringing on other patents?
Right.
Like, let's say I come out with, my widget is entering into a very crowded space,
right,
where it's a literal minefield of IP.
Right.
How does that work out?
So that's a different type of search, and it's one that we did all the time, especially for corporations. The cost of an infringement search can easily be $5,000 because the patent searcher is now looking at the claims of a patent, which are at the end of the patent, and that's basically the scope of coverage of a patent. And so he or she is really being comprehensive, trying to make sure that they collect all the relevant patents. And then the attorney has to sit down, and that could be another $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 to look at those results and render the opinion, non-infringement opinion.
That's fascinating. So how'd you get into all this stuff? Walk us through your background and tell us how you ended up doing this.
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. I don't know. In the people I know in the business, none of them started out saying, I want to be a patent searcher. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a circuitous kind of way. But so I went to a vocational school in high school, took electronic technology, thought I was going to go into the Air Force, graduated from high school, I was still 17. I'd taken the entrance exam, the ASVAB, scored really well, but I was a pretty unmotivated, sort of chubby kid that wasn't sure I wanted to go run 5 miles and pass the physical before actually would get into the military. So I had my father was in the D.C. area. He retired. We moved down to Lexington, Virginia. I graduated from high school down there, so I moved back to Woodbridge and was sort of hanging out trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I answered an ad in the newspaper for somebody with electronic experience, will train, no degree required, and I thought this was written for me. So went and interviewed, and it ended up being a patent law firm. And I interviewed with the founding partner of the firm. He showed me some diagrams and asked me, how does this differ from that? What do you see? There was some circuitry. How are these similar, alike, or different? And they hired me on the spot. And so I had no idea what it would entail. I just knew that seemed like a decent job. I was going to be inside, and seemed kind of interesting to me. So I spent 10 years there as a researcher. I also did some copyright and trademark research as a workflow varied. And then I decided the workflow was diminishing, and I decided I'm either going to go out on my own, or maybe they're going to let me go one day. So I started my own patent research firm back in 1999, and I had it for 20 years. It grew primarily through word of mouth, and from client to client. It was a small little niche-y kind of industry at the time, and that worked well for me. And then in 2016, I sold it to a software provider. They hired me back. I spent a couple years there, and then I left to pursue all of these inventions.
Well, that's awesome. So I guess walk us through what some of these are. I mean, so when you guys met, it was the Gutcheck, right? That was...
And you just had prototypes at that point. I mean,
Right.
You didn't have this.
No,
You weren't going out to the ATA show and
Right.
going to these companies,
Right.
getting face to face and with an actual product yet.
Right,
You were going
right.
with an idea.
Right, I was going with an idea prototype. So I was hunting with a buddy of mine named Jeff, who's a great archery shot. And we were on our hunt club, and he texted me, just shot a deer. Come and help. Okay, I'll be right over. So I get to where he's at, and he's like, I can't believe it. The deer circled me, and I didn't see it go down. And it was like a 7-yard shot. It was a really steep angle. And so long story short, we tracked it for like an hour, lost the blood trail, couldn't find it, and then sort of just stumbled upon it laying there and realized that the chest had been splayed open because it was such a sharp angle, and it had clotted. And I thought, well, there's got to be a way to figure out if an arrow passes through the digestive tract of an animal. There just has to be a way. And so I went back to my tree stand that afternoon, put a little note on my iPhone, digestive, pH indicator for an arrow. And then I got back to work on Monday and did a little patent searching myself. Couldn't find anything. Then had one of my researchers do an unbiased search on it, and he couldn't find anything either. So that's when the IP started. I went to the attorney, one of my good clients up in Pennsylvania that I'd done some work for, and real good guy. And I said I'd like to file a patent application on my own invention, and we did that. And
Was he kind of blown away? Like, hey, you're supposed to be giving me results, and you've got one on your own. All right, let's do it.
Yeah. It's funny because I've had some inventions of my own through the years, but it wasn't until I'd say in my mid-30s that things really started clicking. Like some of the ideas I had, I did my own searches on and found. I have 2 patents on golf-related inventions. I got those in the early to mid-2000s, and they use lasers for training for ball position, to establish ball position. And I thought, when I get these patents, the floodgates will open and all these companies will call me, and that wasn't the case. I went to the PGA show down in Orlando. I talked to Hank Haney about it and some other people, and they said those are great ideas. I'd bring it further, and I'd be interested and create prototypes, all that. And that really is, for me, has been the harder part of this side of the business. Getting the intellectual property secured has not been the harder part, but all the other stuff. So back to Gutcheck, I have a patent attorney friend whose brother is a PhD, really super guy, and he just creates solutions for people when they have chemical type questions. And so I went to him and I said, look, this is what I'm looking for, just some sort of material that changes colors when it's gut shot. And there's this body of material out there that they identified, and they printed up some prototypes on an inkjet printer of all things using this, it's called a halochromic dye. And so that's what I went to ATA with. I somehow heard about the ATA, and I thought, well, I'll join. And I have been a provider to various hunting companies in the past through the patent side. So I went and I walked around and I talked to some folks, and I ran the idea by them, and they seemed really intrigued by it, really interested in it. So when I got back, and I met you, of course, and talked to you about it, I was pretty amped up when I got back to kind of move it further.
Hopefully that wasn't the low point of the show. Meeting Billy.
No.
Sitting next to this terribly stinky drunk guy on the airplane.
He just slobbered on me and then put his head on my shoulder. I figured I should wake him up and talk to him. Otherwise, he's sleeping
He's
on me.
going into a coma.
Well, actually, one of the things that you told me to definitely do while I was there was that film festival.
Oh, yeah.
That Badlands.
Badlands.
Yeah.
That was really, really cool, and I was able to get in.
That's a can't miss every year.
Yeah, it's always good.
Yeah.
That was really neat. So when I got back from ATA, I got an email, and it was like it was written for me. Do you have an invention in the hunting industry that you want to take to market? I can help. And it ended up being from a guy named Don Bell, who used to own. He was founded Top Secret Code Blue, and so he was moving away from the urine attractant industry and into marketing and consulting, and so it seemed to make sense. So I contacted Don, and I ran my ideas by him: the foot rattle, the grunt, and this Gutcheck Indicator, and he thought that of the three, this was the one that we should pursue. And so he had connections through his time in the business with graphic artists, even the printer that could make the actual Gutcheck Indicator. And so we started down the path with the first wrap, the reflective wrap. And so we went through the prototyping and the marketing and all that stuff. And that's how Gutcheck came to be.
That's cool. Can you show us how this works? So
Sure.
this is an arrow wrap, is that right?
Right,
A
yes.
reflective arrow wrap.
Right.
That's cool.
So six to a pack, and they're adhesively attached. And if at any point it touches digestive tract,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to change colors that quickly.
That's awesome.
So you know instantly, I just got shot that animal. I need to let it lay down. The white portions will show whatever fluid it passes through, if it's blood. What we found is, and we have photos of this, if it passes through like double lung or heart, that center section will saturate and it will look dark blue. It's because there's just so much blood.
Mm-hmm.
Blood is basic, so it won't change the color. This is looking for pH, so that's why it's changing when it touches the digestive tract.
So rain when you're, in the tree and it's raining on your arrows.
It's not good for the wraps.
Yeah.
And that's part of why I came up with the next iteration of it, which is the wipe. So there's 6 wipes in a pack. Same concept. If you are, you retrieve your arrow or bolt and you want to test it, you just hit it and it's going to show you instantly if you have pH. There are some hunters that just will not add any weight to their arrows. They're really reluctant to put anything on. So that's why I came out with the wipe idea.
Mm-hmm.
That weather conditions. And we do find like a 50-50 split actually between hunters. Some seem to have a preference for the wraps and some for the wipes. So it just varies hunter to hunter.
Do these ever go bad?
They don't go bad. They just, if they get really saturated with water,
They're done.
They're done. Yeah. And they're not reusable. People ask me that all the time. But at retail, they're $2.49 a piece. It's really inexpensive.
Yeah, they're
It's one and done.
very, very inexpensive.
Yeah.
And
Well, a lot of broadheads don't survive.
one shot
One
and
shot.
they're up to $30-$40 a piece, you know,
Right.
depending on which ones you get.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And they're super reflective. We got the brightest material we could find. We actually make just a reflective wrap because they're so bright, and we wanted to give that as an offering to people as well.
I think that's a smart thing to do. I love having some reflection on my arrows. Have you ever seen, I know you've seen it when we go to Big Pine, we have those safety lines like from Hunter Specialties.
Right.
If you light a candle, you can see those safety lines from like 100 yards away. That's, I imagine, how bright those wraps are.
They are. I sent you a picture.
Yeah, I saw
and
that
it
picture
just-
was glowing.
It really glows. And
I was like, Dean, come on, man. I know you edited this photo.
no, not at all. We even have like a light box that we take to the trade shows, and we put them down at the bottom, and you know, the inside's painted black, and people walk by and hit it with a flashlight, and they're just amazed at how bright those things really are.
well, it's so important to have, like to your point, a little bit of reflection on there, right? Because it's one thing if you're holding it up and you're like flashing a light on it.
Sure.
But if it's like under a bunch of leaves and you only have like a freckle size of it and you're looking for your arrow or bolt, I mean, for me, that's the first thing I want to find when I get out of the tree. I want to find the arrow. I want to look at it. I'm going to run my finger on it. I'm going to look at the blood that's there, the viscosity of the blood that's there, look for bubble. I mean, like, that tells you everything you need to know about what you should be doing next. And
Right.
so by being able to take, you know, this wipe or have the wrap on your arrow, be able to check it real quick and see, I mean, is pretty awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
So I think one thing that people say when they invent something, they say, I'm going to sell this, is my $1 million idea, and then
Your deer
just
catcher
gonna-
is $1 trillion idea.
my AeroNet.
AeroNet.
It's solid, by the way. I've already designed the.
Catching deers has a whole new meaning.
Yeah.
I want to see the
Maybe
bazooka.
they'll invest.
Yeah.
But so they always say, you know, this is the one thing I want to sell or invent, and someone's going to buy it, and then
Right.
I'll just sell it and be done.
Right.
But that's not exactly how business works.
No.
You know, once you sell one thing, it's
It doesn't.
no.
Damn it.
No. I mean, that's how the lottery works, except you don't win, you know? But I imagine, you know, there's lots of inventions. Like, you've invented a lot of things,
Right.
and a few things have caught on. So that next step after that, you know, okay, I've got a patent. I've got something someone's buying. So I'm actually selling something at that point. You didn't stop there,
Right.
you know? So I'm guessing you would advise people to do the same thing. You know, once you hit a certain
Sure.
sell point, then, hey,
Sure.
let's start looking to the next piece.
So I think there are a couple of ways or routes you can take. You can seek, once you have intellectual property, right? That's the important part, whether it's a pending patent or a granted patent. Once you have some intellectual property, then you can start approaching people and saying, okay, I have this protected. I'd like to license it to you. I think one of the biggest mistakes that inventors and entrepreneurs make is that they expect to go to one of the large companies and expect a $500,000 payout plus royalties on sales, and it doesn't work that way.
It does on Shark Tank,
That's a different story.
right?
I can't tell you how many people say you should go to Shark Tank, right? But I just don't think I would be a fit for those investors. I don't know any of them that have come out as hunters. I know one is a fisherman, I believe, but I just don't see them being really embracing my line of products.
Sure,
Right?
and they're looking for a higher volume. I mean, we're talking about
Sure.
billions of,
Right.
you know.
Right. Well, and one of the challenges and frustrations becomes, I think, I can speak from the personal experiences. A lot of the Shark Tank folks or some investors, they want to see the full, okay, I got from concept to on shelves to profit, lots of, before they're willing to invest. And a lot of times the smaller inventor needs the help at the beginning stages. because once you've gotten on the shelf and you've gotten your distribution and supply chain and all that stuff worked out and you're profitable, what's your incentive to sell?
Yeah, why would you sell? If you're making money, you don't sell.
Right, exactly. So marketing is a huge component to it. And I have a marketing company that I work with called Rubline Marketing. And they work with Scent Crusher, they work with Tacticam, a lot of big brands, and they're known specifically, or not specifically, but their biggest, I'd say, sector is the hunting industry, and they do the social media piece because you have to have that out there. They create a lot of content that goes on social media, so it's not just a matter of I'm going to create a product and just launch it and everybody's going to come to me and buy it, right? Another challenge is getting to the buyer, right? If I'm trying to reach a buyer at Cabela's, let's say, not that I have, but it's not like there's a directory that I can go to that says, okay, this is the buyer at Walmart or Cabela's that I need to reach out to. Usually you have to have a sales rep group, and that sales rep group has a fleet of people on the streets that are going door to door, whether it's to a local bow shop or the large box stores, and they have relationships with those buyers, and they present anywhere from a couple brands to maybe 20 or 30 brands that they represent. And so you have an allotted time in front of that buyer, and you have to present all these products, whether they're established products or new products, and they're doing that for commission. So you have to sort of identify those rep groups, and part of the challenge with my particular line of products is that it's a scent line, and there are many big players in the scent industry. Even though we're very unique and very different, if a company already represents a scent line, they can't take on another brand like mine.
Sure.
So you have all those challenges that come into play. So it's not. So as I said, there are two routes to go. One would be the licensing route, and the second would be the actual manufacturing and trying to get it out there on the marketplace route. The licensing route, while people feel like they may not be getting the money that they deserve for their $1 million idea, it's the easier route, I would say. You don't have to manufacture. You don't have to go into supply chain issues. You don't have to warehouse. You don't have to get it on the shelves. You're getting some sort of royalty up front. It may be $50,000, $100,000, and then 8 to 12% of sales, something like that.
Yeah, but if you're partnering with a known brand, like let's say, a well-known scent brand, maybe that royalty pays off more because people are quicker to trust because of that brand name, that brand association that's there.
Right.
When you're developing a new brand, you really have to kind of start from scratch and earn that brand loyalty all over again, which is difficult as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing is those known brands would already have their rep group in place, right? Mm-hmm. They've already got shelf space. They've already got
they have working capital too.
Working capital relationship with the buyer at those particular big box stores. So there are definite benefits to going that route for sure.
Yeah. There are also negatives, right? Where you're on somebody else's boat. Right. You're not the captain of the ship. You're just riding along.
Right.
And,
if they decide to drop your line, there goes your...
Yeah, or if they try to muscle you out or screw you over. I mean, there are a lot of potential negatives there where, like, sometimes it's nice being in charge of your own little dinghy rather than riding on somebody else's yacht.
Right.
Sure.
That's a nice little analogy there.
Thanks. That's what I told my wife. I said, look, you can either marry the dinghy or you can be on that guy's yacht.
And she went for the yacht, but he was already married.
She couldn't catch up to it, so I skipped her up in my dinghy, and she's been miserable ever since.
So Dean, would you advise, like, new inventors or someone trying to break in, would you advise them to, find a mentor, someone to talk to, or is that... because it seems like inventing could be a little cutthroat. You know, you've got an invention, you've got an idea, and it sparks another super creative person, and they're like, I've got an idea.
Right.
You know, I wonder if that's, you know, is that an issue? Would you want to find a mentor, or do you just put your nose down and figure it out?
I think if you can find a mentor or surround yourself with a group of people that are realistic, right, that won't get caught up in the energy or the excitement that you do as an inventor, because that's I think one of the challenges when you're an inventor. You only see positive, right? But there has to be a marketplace, right? People use the word entrepreneur all the time, and that word, I don't know, I've never considered myself that, right? I just consider myself an inventor. If the challenge is making that into a positive revenue stream business, and not everybody's a businessman. So I think having people around you that will ask you the tough questions, like why isn't your product selling? Those sorts of things are helpful. One of the things I've always dissuaded people from doing is going to that marketing company that's going to also handle your intellectual property. There are companies out there who will hook the inventor on the expectations that if you sell 50,000 of these per month, your monthly revenue will be X. In most cases, none of those companies have actually achieved that for anyone, but it's kind of that carrot out there in front of them. And then they also handle the patenting side, which becomes very, very expensive through a lot of those marketing firms. I met a guy on LinkedIn. I couldn't believe it. He ended up telling me he spent $50,000 to get a patent on a board game. And it was actually just, there are different types of patents, not to get in the weeds, but there's what's called a utility patent, and that's the way something functions. There's what's called a design patent, which is just the outward design of something, the way it aesthetically appears. His patent was on the design of this board game layout. And, he was pushed to go do a market survey through a university and all these things that added, that was $13,000. I said, what did it tell you? He said, it told me if I went to the market, I had about an 86% chance of success. So what does that mean? What does that mean? And so unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there who have great ideas. They just don't know what to do with it. They don't know where to go. And even now that I'm not focused on IP right now, I still, if I run into people, I try and help them as much as I can, because it's a daunting task to try and embrace all this stuff and figure out, where do I go? Who can I trust, or how do I proceed?
So like 30,000 foot view, you're talking to a 27, 28-year-old you, 30, whatever, young you. Not that you're not young now. You've just had the greatest idea ever. You have no clue what to do with it. What's the kind of like high level overview? You file the provisional patent right away, right? Because first file system.
So I'm aware of that system. I would say the average person probably wouldn't even know that much. So the first thing I would say is go to a patent attorney. And I know the second I say attorney, people roll their eyes and they're like, cha-ching, dollars, right? But they understand the system. Patent attorneys are, first and foremost, they're engineers. They've been to engineering school, and so then they go to law school, unlike a lot of attorneys who are, practicing, just business or what have you. They're specialized, and so they're going to be able to, first and foremost, they should recommend a patent search be done. I don't really recommend to people that they rely on a patent search that they do themselves through Google Patents or on a website. You can go and do those searches and come back with patents. It's just that deciphering the information becomes difficult at that point. When you have 20 or 30 patents in front of you that may appear similar, there still may be room for patenting. And that's where the attorneys, they're really crafty at sort of weaving between existing patents and the proposed invention. So
What are we looking at? I mean, hour-wise or cost-wise? I mean, I know you talked about the patent search being, it could be 500, it could be 1,000,
Right.
you know, and then let's say it's 1,000, and then you've got the lawyer fees on top of that, which those are hours. Let's say $300 an hour or so.
Right.
Are we looking at a couple $1,000, $2,500 to get out there and say, okay, I can actually run with this?
So I would say a more realistic number would be with patent search and then the attorney actually drafting and filing the patent application. You're probably somewhere around $5,000 to $6,000 on a mechanical device. But that means a search has been done. He's looked at those results, he or she, and in their opinion it's patentable. Then they've filed the patent application. So now you're patent pending. You can rest knowing I can talk to people. I have a full-blown patent application on file. I can go to investors and all that. Now, generally, the patent office is going to reject your patent application on the first go-around. That's just commonplace. It's you can expect that. So then the patent attorney will receive that rejection, and then he'll have to sit down and figure out how to argue around it, and that's when the hourly rates kick in. It could be another $500. It could be more, but to get a patent search and get on file, probably $5,000 or $6,000. Yeah.
And then after that, like you said, then you're going to talk to people. Then you have to sell your idea.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, sometimes you can't sell the idea, right? You have to take it to market and try to develop it and sell it.
Yeah.
Like sell the
Aeronet.
product. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to do.
I know. We're going to be catching deers. Faux real.
Faux show.
Faux real catching deers.
Every time I catch one, I'm going to measure it and go, you sure this is only 85 inches?
This is the smallest 8 inches I've ever seen.
So Dean, tell us about, the next step after Gutcheck. I mean, you've then gone to another level. Now, you talked about the fella from Code Blue who
Right.
you've kind of partnered up with.
Right.
So I want you to go over a couple of these items, and
sure.
I especially want to hear about the CWD-Free and how that is
Right.
possible. How do you?
Sure. So Don Bell is the name of the guy who was Code Blue top secret, and I was working with him on the marketing and the actual product packaging design for Gutcheck and all that. And I'm one of those guys. I'm an idea guy, right? So if you look through the notes on my phone, you see some of the craziest inventions I've had. Making things just like the Gutcheck Indicator. And I remembered I had this idea, and I just didn't know where to go with it. So it had been tabled, and it was the ScentRelief idea. So my idea was I want to be able to convert human urine into an attractant, a deer attractant. Now, keep in mind, my background's mechanical and electrical. So
And both inventions that you've put on the market are chemical,
or
right?
chemical, right. So my answer at that time was I had even had an email that I sent to my friend's brother, the PhD down in Florida, named Mark Davidson, and Dr. Davidson. And I said, I know this is going to sound crazy, but, is it possible, would it be possible to turn human urine into a deer attractant? And he came back to me and he said, Dean, it probably is. It's just not my area of expertise, right? And I thought, well, who would be, right? So I tabled it, and then during this process with Gutcheck, I thought, why am I not asking Don? Don has been in this business 30 years. So I forwarded that email to Don, and I said, Don, here's an email I had, an idea I had a while back, and is this possible? Do you think we could make this happen? And so he came back to me and said, I think it's doable, but let me put you in contact with my chemist. And this other chemist, he's been in the business for 30 plus years. He makes synthetic urines. He makes all sorts of products. So he figured out how to do this thing. Of course, we did a patent search, and there was one guy who sort of touched on it, but there's this thing in patents called enablement, which means it really has to be an enabled idea. It can't just be a concept, this pie in the sky kind of thing. And he hadn't really worked through how to actually make it happen. So anyway, so Lewis Johnson is the chemist, and he sent me some materials. He said, we're going to give this a try. So he sends me the first sort of prototype of it, and I'm just dumbfounded, excited as can be. I put it out, put it in front of a camera, and deer come to it. And I'm just blown away. And so, again, we filed the full patent application and started working through the process on that.
So with this, I go pee into this bottle. Mm-hmm. And then I add the two things here.
Right.
Do you have wider tops?
No.
Why would you need a wider top?
I'm out. So I get my hands in there.
You see that little dot right there? That's what you pee in.
So you wouldn't be the first person to ask us that.
Yeah. Damn.
I need a tuna can.
Right.
It's only about that deep.
Yeah.
So we get at trade shows in particular, we get asked all the funny questions. Asparagus is one of them, and what if I've been drinking all night? That's another one. So so it's pretty funny. So what happens is, and again, I'm sort of high level on this, but this is the way the chemist explains it to me. You go to the fill line, you add the first powder. The first powder in the bottle fizzes a bit for like 10 minutes, and it neutralizes and oxygenates the urine, kills bacteria. Then the second bottle is whatever scent we're trying to convert it into. So estrus, buck, doe, tar salt. There's another chemical that's been mixed in with that interacts with the powder, neutralizes and does everything it needs to do with regard to the compounds. So people ask me a lot, couldn't I just put water in this and add it? And the thing is, animals, urine contains compounds, right, based upon diet and the way we're made. And so animals expect to smell compounds in urine. So fully synthetic attractants on the market today, like in Virginia where we live, you can only use synthetics. They do not contain those compounds. And so that's why you don't get the reaction from deer that you would expect when they smell it, because there's something missing. And deer are smart. I mean, extremely smart. And they know when something doesn't smell right. Just like people also will crack, the bottle once they've made it and smell it and say, this doesn't smell to me like what I buy off the shelf. And that's because oftentimes what's being bought from off the shelf has been in that bottle for months, oftentimes. It's been exposed to air, which causes it to ammoniate. And that's why people say, I've put it out and had deer run from it. It's because they know what fresh urine is supposed to smell like.
Mm-hmm. And this smells like it's been sitting in a toilet for 3 days.
Way too long.
Yeah.
If you don't fill it up to the fill line, do you just add it all anyways?
You can, yeah. So what people tend to do is use just half of it, or you can make it 2 weeks in advance. So that's the thing. You don't have to be in your tree stand. It's one of the added benefits of.
I could see this going all over me.
On purpose.
I'm a little clumsy. I wait until I get in the tree, and I'm like, damn it, I forgot to fill my bottle, and I got my saddle, and I'm over to the side. And actually, now I'm covered in, at least, hopefully I've poured the neutralizing powder in before I spill it all over myself.
Right.
So it's not, this is cool.
One of the coolest experiences is after we got the prototypes back, I was hunting with my buddy Jeff, the guy that founded, was the idea behind Gutcheck. And we were out for the afternoon having lunch. He was getting ready to head back into the stand. He said, I'm going to make some up and, put it out. It was black powder season. And we're part of a hunt club down near Charlottesville, 2,200 acres. And, we tend to hunt within hearing distance, when a gun goes off. So we went to our stands, and I heard this, kapow in the afternoon, and I knew it was him, and I thought, I hope something good happened. And he said he was on his way into the stand, and he made a mock scrape, got to his stand, and he saw a deer going down the fire trail, and the wind was blowing, from behind him towards it, and it stopped, put its nose in the air, wheeled, completely changed directions, and went right over to him, to the scrape at 45 yards. Just totally stopped its travel and moved and went right to it. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
That is cool. So you use the whitetail buck in your mock scrapes?
Yes, right now, particularly in year round.
Is this a ruddy buck or just buck in
That's
general?
just buck.
Okay.
So one of the things that Don taught me, he said, if you put a gun to my head and said, you can use 1 scent to kill a deer, he said it'd be buck. Everybody thinks estrus, but that's a small window of time. So for year-round use, I would definitely recommend the buck or the doe. We make both. But I've got cameras out right now. They're coming to buck. And, a lot of users. We send it out. We've got a small team of pro staffers, and just send it to them and say, hey, put it out, show us what you're getting. And we're getting a lot of hits on that and CWD-Free, which we'll get to.
Yeah, so this is a different product than
yes.
just taking...
Same science, same chemistry. So to your point of being up in the stand and seeing that you might end up with it all
Pour that
over
all
you.
over myself, yeah.
Right. We it was more the idea, one of the things we were saying to people at the trade shows, which is true, like in Virginia, when I came out with ScentRelief, they couldn't ban it because it's not cervid-based urine. And if you read the regulations, which a lot of people don't do, and actually read what they're saying, it is ban the use of urine derived from deer or other cervids. So I tell people this is they can't be banned, and it's real urine. When they kind of, it occurred to me that with the CWD concern that we have here in the United States, we can now, because it's also patented, we can use any source of urine that's non-cervid, put it through the chemistry, and then it will be legal in those states that have banned urine-based, deer urine-based or cervid-based urines. So my idea was we have an opportunity to do what's best for the herd, especially in those states that really have it badly, and also have a better product. I would describe it as a hybrid of sorts because it's real urine combined with the synthesized natural compounds that we use in the ScentRelief product.
That's really cool. And so how long does this last for once you open that bottle?
There's no shelf life on it.
Because of what you've added to it.
Right. We treat it chemically. Again, we oxygenate it, we kill the bacteria, and then we neutralize it. And so one of the things that we found last hunting season, I sent it to a university, and I said, I'd just like to know, is it as effective as real deer urine at attracting deer? They did a 10-day study. He came back and he said, we can confirm that it is as effective at attracting deer as real deer urine. But the interesting thing we found that during the study was it lasts longer in the field. After day 6, the other deer urines, we tested it against a fully synthetic and a real deer urine. They stopped attracting deer. Yours continued to attract deer from day 7 through 10. Which is big because it keeps you out of the field, right? Mm-hmm. If you're doing mock scrapes and you know this lasts 66% longer, you don't have to revisit that scrape as often.
Yeah.
So what type of urine is it? Can't say?
It's a trade secret. And it's not mine, just in case you're wondering.
I want to know how you get the giraffe to pee into a bottle, right? Yeah. No, that's cool.
So I was telling people at a trade show we could use alligator urine if we could figure out how to get it.
Mm-hmm.
We literally can use any urine source that we want, but it has to be non-cervid in order to to be legal in those states, and Canada, by the way. Several provinces in Canada have banned real deer urine.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So, do you have another invention? Well, I guess I shouldn't even ask you this because I hear that I hear the deer now carry COVID.
Right.
So
I saw
are you gonna invent a deer mask?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Lyme disease prevention
Right.
stuff.
Right.
I just want to inoculate deer with my arrow net.
Well, yeah, you can net them.
Yep.
And
Inoculate
then
them.
tag them,
Put a mask on them.
and just
Tell them to stay away 6 feet from their.
I saw where
Herd
they
members?
used like mRNA to they think they've cured Lyme disease.
I wish.
I'm for real.
Is that a vaccine you'd take?
Yeah. Look, I've put plenty of worse shit in my body. I'm not too worried about the vaccine. Okay?
I'm not worse than. I mean, whoops.
I'm curious, in your patent research life previously, what were some of the top handful of dumbest requests? Like did you ever get a call from the little old lady? Because everybody thinks their idea is just the greatest idea ever. And I know you worked with a lot of bigger companies, so hopefully that kind of put the kibosh on like the Panhandler 9000, But that's a great idea, like a long stick, like an X-Acto stick for panhandling.
Doesn't have anything on it. It's just a stick.
Yeah, with a cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you can talk about any of those.
Sure.
But did you ever have some like incredibly just stupid ideas that you looked at yourself and you were like, I can't believe I have to go search?
That's going to be $1 because there isn't another one. I don't even have to search it.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't worry, ma'am. Your idea is safe.
So what's interesting is probably some of the craziest inventions I've seen have actually been patented. Like back in the late 1800s, I guess it was pretty common to bury people while they were still alive. So there are patents on air passageways and alarm systems, bell systems tied to the finger of the body, so that if the person comes to, they've got an air source and they've also got an alarm that they can ring.
Could you imagine a worse? Now,
No.
actually, I remember reading about that. Didn't that have something to do with the way that alcohol was being made? And these people were basically knocking themselves out for like a couple days on end. So they think that you like died from a heart attack, right? But really you just got ripping drunk. And there was like, it was like fentanyl or something like that was in the booze, and they were just like unconscious for 3 days. When they wake up and you're in a grave and you're like, oh shit. And the way they found out was because I think they were hearing noises in the cemetery, and they would exhume these bodies, and they found all these like claw marks on the inside of the caskets, and after like a handful of them, they're like, well shit, these guys are not dead.
We just took this to a dark place here.
Yeah. Let's rebury.
Yeah.
Let me have that ring.
Well, it wasn't a dark place for the people that invented the little finger bell
Right.
and the breathing apparatus.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things. There's a patent on a anti-groundhog device that literally is a pistol on a holder, and when the groundhog steps on the plate, it shoots it.
What could possibly go wrong?
Right.
I'd like to order 400 Smith & Wesson 38s, please.
Yeah. I mean, there's just a whole host of stuff out there. There's a patent that issued in the 1950s to a British guy. It was a great British patent, and it was how to survive a Holocaust. And it was this underground cave, and it had poker tables, and it had this parachute system where you could parachute down into it. It was just this whole little colony underground, I guess you would say, where you played poker and drank beer. It had
And parachute in.
and parachute in. Yeah.
Don't miss that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy what people think of, for sure. I mean, I'm probably an example of that, but there's a lot of ingenuity out there, a lot of great things.
Well, and if you if you think about it, like every idea is stupid until it's not.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden people find a use for it, and, we're creative, and you can take an idea and then evolve it into something else and make it something that changes the world, like a Post-it note or something. Right.
Sure.
I mean, you never know what the actual applied use could be compared to your idea. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, Dean, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, where they can get some of your products?
Sure. So you can find more information on the products and order through our website, which is inventiveoutdoors.com. We have an Instagram page and a Facebook page. It's Inventive Outdoors. You can follow us there, see our pretty regular updates on things. And we have some products on Amazon as well. So those are the easiest ways to get us right now.
Cool.
Very cool. I'm pretty sure everybody knows how to get a hold of Amazon.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to get a hold of Amazon, stop listening to our podcast, because you probably aren't. There's no way that you're
What's
listening.
the Google?
Yeah.
Hey, I have to tell you something real quick. I'm blowing up right now. My phone's going crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I parked, I guess, kind of maybe in front of your neighbor's driveway, and she is pissed.
My neighbor's pissed?
Your neighbor's pissed.
Oh.
It's a lady. She's not happy.
But she texting you?
No, she called.
Emily. Oh, and Emily is text. Maybe that's why my phone was ringing. I forgot to put my phone on silent.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I mean, maybe they shouldn't be home right now. Maybe they should be working. It's 2:30 in the afternoon.
I wish. It's Saturday, though. Anyway.
True.
Well, Dean, we really appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been
I
fun.
learned a lot. I'm going to really try to push my arrow.
Now you can go move your car. Yeah, these look really cool. I mean, I can't imagine anybody out there not wanting to use this. So
Cool.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Cool.
very cool.
Yeah,
Thanks,
great.
man.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Appreciate it.